What a great ending to that story. I love how Rodney and his friends learned that even though he talks a little bit differently, he can still be a great leader. Today, we're going to practice what we learned yesterday. We learned yesterday that readers can ask themselves 3 questions to make sure they're understanding their stories. We learned that readers ask themselves, who? Who are the characters at this part of the story? We learned readers ask themselves, what? What are the big things that are happening in the story? And we learned that readers ask themselves, where? Where are the characters right now? Readers ask who, what, and where to make sure they're understanding the stories. It's important to know that readers don't do this just one time and stop. Readers do this at different points during the story to make sure they're understanding all of the things that might be changing in the story. And that's what we're going to do today. We're going to ask ourselves those 3 questions again to see if anything in our story has changed. Let me remind you how to do this work using another page from Hooray for Rodney Wet. Yesterday we stopped and practiced this work in the middle of the story. Today we're going to stop at the end of the story to see if any answers to our questions have changed. Let's reread this page. And from that day on, the pupils of PS 142 Elementary School for Rodents never teased Rodney again. He was their hero. Hooray for Rodney Wet, they cried. Woot, woot, wooty toot toot. Okay, time to stop and ask my 3 questions. Do you remember what the 3 questions are? If you do, say them with me. We ask who, we ask what, and we ask where. So who, what, and where. Let's start with who. I grab my sticky note and I write the word who across the top. If you don't have a sticky note, it's okay. You can do this work on a piece of paper too. Now that I have who, I ask myself, who is in the story in this part? Well, if I look back at our story, I notice that there's Rodney and his classmates. You know who's not in the story anymore? Camilla. She's long gone. Remember, she went west? So I'm going to write on my sticky note, Rodney and his classmates, because those are the characters that are in this part of the story. So now I've asked who, time to ask what. What is the big thing that's happening right now? Wrote what at the top of my sticky note, and I went back to the text to think, what is happening right now? That's right, Camilla is gone, and everyone is so excited, so they were celebrating. I want to write that on my sticky note. So I write, celebrating Camilla leaving. That's the big thing that's happening in this part of the story. And finally, I'm ready for my last question. Where? Where are the characters at in this part of the story? Well, I can read in the text that it says the pupils of PS 142 Elementary School for Rodents, so they are at school. I write that on my Post-it note. Just like yesterday, in the middle of the story, they were at school. Here where they're celebrating, they're still at school. Do you see why it's important that readers do this work several times while they're reading? Because the who, the what, and the where might change as the story goes on. Now that we've reviewed how to ask who, what, and where questions while we're reading, it's time for you to try this work again on your own. Here's your job. You're going to go to your reading spot, and today you're going to read for 20 minutes. This is our big 2nd grade goal, 20 minutes of independent reading where you stay focused on your reading work and practicing the reading strategies. I believe in you. I know that you can do it. Set a timer for 20 minutes and celebrate when you've made it to the end. After you finish reading, I want you to find a place in your book and I want you to stop and write. Who? Who is in the story in this part? What? What is the big thing that is happening? And where? Where are the characters at right now? If you have sticky notes, put one of each on each sticky note. If you just have paper and you write those questions and answers on your piece of paper, that's okay too. When you finish and you've done your 20 minutes of independent reading and finished your task, I want you to come back to the Nearpod lesson so you can reflect on what you've learned today. All right, readers, off you go. Have fun reading.